Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And may I join the Secretary of State and others in paying tribute to Gordon Banks. The sporting world has indeed lost a giant, and we also lost another sporting giant in Scotland yesterday. Kat Lindner was 39, and her untimely death has shocked everyone across the sporting community in Scotland, particularly at Glasgow City, where she was a former player. She moved to Scotland in 2005 from Germany. She won every domestic trophy with City, appeared 173 times, scoring 128 goals, and she helped the club to 5 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups and 2 League Cups. She is survived by her partner of 16 years, Laura Montgomery, and she was not just an athlete, but a well-respected academic at my own alma mater, the University of Stirling. I'm sure he will join me in her very sad and untimely death. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, we on these benches, although I'm a little isolated today, very much welcome the Cairncross review, and we pay tribute to Francis Cairncross and Enders Analysis, who I know supported the work. And it comes at a very important moment for our democracy. After the mess of the Vote Leave campaign, the scandal of Cambridge Analytica, I think the public expect more. The death of Molly Russell and the huge damage that online harm is doing to our young people. And my team and I met with the NSPCC recently, and some of the statistics that are coming from them: 1 in 7 children between 11 and 18 have been asked to send self-generated images. 7% of 11 to 16-year-olds have sent naked or semi-naked images. It's so important that we get this right and that we do the work on self-harm. And I think the efforts and the recommendations to create a better balance between publishers and platforms, and to persuade online platforms to act in a more responsible way, is hugely important. The issue of fake news has been mentioned, and is something that I believe, and I'm sure many believe, is damaging our democracy and indeed the reputation of the tech companies who have, as the Shadow Secretary of State said, a duopoly. We must take this very seriously. So I hope that he will not just kick the can down the road in terms of the CMA and look at adopting as many of those recommendations as possible. And if I may, in terms of the BBC Local Democracy Initiative, I would absolutely agree. This has been very positive. But we have before us a huge issue in terms of the licence fee, a tax on the elderly. I know that that is not a mess of his making, and I would say to him gently that his predecessors, it would appear to me, have held the BBC to ransom over this issue, and that is not acceptable. And I want to work with him and colleagues across the House to make sure that the BBC can be properly funded and our over 75s get to keep their licence fee. And does he share my concern? As highlighted in the report, the number of frontline journalists, we've heard the numbers have dropped in the last 10 years from 23,000 to 17,000. Now, at a time when both home and abroad we are so in need of good quality journalism, I'm sure he would agree with me that the recommendations are very, very important. And Cairncross highlighted, although news can be found on television and radio, with written journalism supplies the largest quantity of journalism and is most at risk. I think that has never been more apparent than in, and I would commend to him Lindsay Hilson's book In Extremis, about the late Marie Colvin, who was killed unlawfully by the Assad regime in 2012, because she once said, "We have to bear witness, we can make a difference." We rely on our foreign correspondents to bear witness to atrocities and crimes that none of us can ever imagine or bear witness to, and I think we pay tribute to Marie and her family. And in terms of the duopoly of the big tech companies, Facebook and Google, and the behaviour of Mark Zuckerberg and the work that the DCMS committee have done, I think absolutely we must pay tribute to that. But there has to be criminal sanctions in place. These tech companies cannot continue to get away with the kind of things that they've got away with. So what measures does the Secretary of State believe will be necessary to bring those companies on board with these proposals? Because the response from them could well be that they're going to regulate their own content and not submit to an external regulator. What more does he believe that we can do to make those changes and put into place the excellent recommendations that Francis Cairncross has presented?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I begin by agreeing entirely what the Honourable Lady says about Kat Lindner? It's clearly a great tragedy, not just for her family and friends and for her partner, as the Honourable Lady mentions, but for all those who I know will have been inspired by her success in the sport that she has pursued. The Honourable Lady made reference to a number of the different aspects of the Cairncross review. She's right that we should be insistent on the platforms taking responsibility for what they can do. And one of the things they can do is to ensure that the issue of so-called fake news, misinformation and disinformation is addressed robustly. They have the capacity to do that. And as I say, and as Dame Frances recognises in the review, some good work has been done already by the platforms on this, but there's clearly a great deal more that they can achieve. And I believe she's right too to say it is very much in the interests of the online companies that they should do that, because if they don't, then they will find ongoing damage to their reputations, and that is something that I know they will wish to take very seriously. She mentions the licence fee concession and its impact on the BBC. She'll forgive me if we don't engage in that debate once again at this point, but I would say that what we expect of the BBC, what I think we hope for from the BBC, is something that can be delivered irrespective of the debate that goes on about that licence fee concession, and I know that the BBC are very keen to follow up on some of the recommendations in this review and to see in what ways they can help further. She's right also that we should pay tribute at every opportunity to those brave journalists who do bear witness, not just to what happens in this country, but what happens around the world, and at considerable risk to themselves, take the chance to deliver those messages and bear that witness for our benefit. Marie Colvin and others deserve our thanks. And finally, in relation to a regulator, she rightly picks up that the Cairncross review makes reference to the possibility of an independent regulator taking responsibility for some of the things that Dame Frances describes. She will know that that is something we are considering in the context of the Online Harms White Paper, and it may well be that some of the recommendations of this review are best dealt with in bringing forward that White Paper. So there will be a government response which will come, I think, in tranches, some, as I've said, very quick, some which we may be able to bring into the Online Harms White Paper, some which will take a little longer.
Ian Duncan-Smith.